So I was pondering sitting in my bathtub the other day, and then suddenly, it came to me. Whoa. Breath of the Wild's been out for 3 years. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out March 3rd, 2017, along with the Wii U's more aesthetically pleasing and more successful younger brother. Forget the game itself, I just have a bunch of memories waiting to hear some info about the alleged Zelda Wii U. I've been on the hype cycle for this game since it was first announced. 7 years ago. And with all the broken release dates and the delays happening to the game, it meant two things. One, my hype for the game was amplified from the wait, and two, puberty. And when it was getting close to launch, I was so hyped for this game. I ended up doing the big splurge and getting the limited edition version, which came with a really cool Master Sword and a CD, which in hindsight is a lot less cool, because who the hell wants a CD in 2020? Go on, try and name some people. Name 5. And looking back to how I felt about this game in 2017 compared to how I feel about it now, I can say with confidence that Breath of the Wild is my favorite Zelda game. And I think the main reason why I and many other people love this game so much is because the entire experience is personalized to you. And I'm not just talking about what Link's wearing or what weapons he's carrying, I'm talking about the entire shindig.
Oh yeah, and you could go anywhere you want, in whatever order you like. Right, Mads?
No. You're not wrong, it just doesn't prove my point. What makes your decision so impactful isn't what order you tick off the boxes in the Zelda shopping list, but it's the fact that you can choose how to tick those boxes. There's never one solution. Like for example, during the tutorial where you have to get to the shrine in the cold zone, but it's a bit peckish outside and you don't want to freeze up and die, maybe you gathered up a couple of apples and spicy peppers and thought, is there a way I can cook this? And the answer is yes, you find a cooking pot. And then you cook it up and have a warm, cold resistance meal for a few minutes to trek up the mountain to the shrine. Or you could just wear a jacket, the choice is really yours. Or in other examples, when I went over to the beach village because loitering is fun and I like palm trees, and I saw Eventide Island out in the distance and thought, I wonder if I can get there. And I came to the conclusion that, you know what? F it. Ice paths.
A man has fallen into the river in Lego City.
You could use the raft, but it wasn't the only way of getting there. I just hopped from ice block to ice block to get to the island. But not out of choice, I just didn't notice the raft. But I think this complete freedom is a core part of what makes Breath of the Wild so memorable. Your decision of where you're going and when impacts the entire narrative of your journey. And when I say narrative, I don't mean story, because the story in Breath of the Wild is kind of like having an AirPod case with no AirPods in it. It's hollow, it's sad, it's depressing. Which is actually all analogies for the game's world. So actually, that was a very good analogy by me. That was my intention from that joke all along. But I'm personally kind of glad Breath of the Wild doesn't have a story. Probably the biggest complaint I see about Breath of the Wild is its lack of story, which is an understandable criticism of the game, because all the story is flashbacks. But if this game did have a traditional Zelda narrative, it would ruin the structure of the game. Now, I'm gonna make an analogy about Zelda narratives using rocks. So just imagine like a really, really cool rock that's really cool. Traditional Zelda games have all these people talking about this rock, telling you need a certain item to go see this rock and prepare to go and see the rock, and then you're told, go to the cool rock. And you go and see it and you're like, yep, it's a pretty cool rock. But in Breath of the Wild, you might just be walking around casually and holy shit, a rock! So compared to regular Zelda games, in Breath of the Wild, you find stuff entirely on your own. And that's what makes exploration in this game so much fun. But this game isn't so personal to each player from this alone. Because Zelda isn't just about exploring, but about puzzle solving. And one thing about the traditional Zelda game, like Ocarina of Time, is that it doesn't allow much experimenting in this way. With previous Zelda games of a franchise, which were more traditional, there's usually just one specific way of solving a puzzle. And if you try to cheese it, you will fail, you will fall dumb, and you will have to Google a walkthrough. But the physics engine in Breath of the Wild allows multiple different ways of solving a puzzle. With puzzles in this game, if you cheese it, it could work. Cheese all you want, go crazy and just cheese out. We're all lactose intolerant. Like there's this one specific ball puzzle where you have to guide this dumb ball through a maze with motion controls and sod it. Flip your controller upside down and use that flat back of a maze. The fact that this works is amazing. So we've established that Breath of the Wild lets you take on a task however you like. It could be how you get from A to B, it could be how you solve a puzzle, or it could be how you gather resources. You're killing fish with a bomb, you freak. But the thing that seals the deal for Breath of the Wild being memorable is when you experience something I like to call an unexpected conundrum. And something happens which you just couldn't predict. Like there was this one time where I was traveling through Hyrule Field and I spotted a Hinox. Now a Hinox, if you didn't know, is just a big, giant, Cyclops looking bastard. And you find these guys sleeping all across Hyrule. And you usually they have a bunch of really high-end weapons hanging around their neck. And Breath of the Wild has a mechanic where your weapons break. And so when you see one of these big bastards with a bunch of really high-end weapons around their neck, you probably want to pick them up. So I got next to him and I sneaked up quietly onto his chest. And just as I was grabbing all the weapons, I heard this noise. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, this was bad. This was bad. So I hid behind a tree. You see, Guardians can track you as long as they can see you. If you're hiding behind a rock or a tree, they can't see you. But of course, during all of this, the Hinox wakes up and he knows where I am and he slowly starts walking towards me. And you know, I'm like, okay, hopefully he doesn't attack me, hopefully he doesn't see me. And in this moment, what does the Hinox do? He picks up the tree! He picks up the tree! And you know what? I don't regret that death. The way the world interacts with itself in this way, I think is the most immersive and game-changing factor, and is what makes Breath of the Wild feel as special as it does. Okay, so we've broken down the main reasons on what makes this game so good. Time for a conclusion? No! Because there's actually one more bonus point, and that's sharing your experiences with others. Whoa! Insert self-referencing YouTube joke here! Just talking to someone else who's played Breath of the Wild and sharing experiences with one another is just insanely fun. Maybe as fun as playing the game now. When the game first came out, me and a classmate both brought our Switches to class. And whenever we talked to each other about the game, it was as if we were telling stories at a campfire and passing on knowledge to one another. And since 3 years passed since Breath of the Wild was first released, it's really fun to look back at these memories with friends. And because this Zelda title is kind of loose on the story factor, and the game can be so personalized to the player, it means everyone has a different story to tell, even if two people are talking about the exact same thing. For example, with the Lionel fight above Zora's domain, me and my friend Kurt have two completely different stories about what happened in this situation. The reason you go up there in the first place is to collect a bunch of lightning arrows and try and sneak around the Lionel, but Kurt thought, on that, I'm gonna take this Lionel on for a match to the death. Well, so I went to Zora's domain, saw the Lionel, got petrified, and ran over to Death Mountain instead. You know what they say, whenever you see a half horse, half lion, half man, run over to the volcano. Another time, I was on a call with two friends, and one of my friends was playing Breath of the Wild and stuck in the Lost Woods trying to get to the Korok Forest, and could not figure out how you're supposed to get through the fog. To give context, in order to get through the fog to get to Korok Forest, you're carrying a torch, and then you see where the wind is blowing the flame, and then you follow the flame. It's almost like using a metal detector, but with wind and fire. But telling her that wouldn't be any fun, so we gave her a small hint. Fire. A few minutes passed and she was still clueless, and after laughing at her for being bad at the game, we decided to give her another hint. Wind. Around 10 minutes passed and she was still confused. She thought when we said wind to look at the trees blowing in the wind, which is, you know, that's a fair guess, that makes sense, but come on. Wind. Fire. So an unbound amount of time passes and she just starts lighting everything on fire. We eventually had to just spell it out to her, but that memory was just so funny. And what I've said about Breath of the Wild isn't even mentioning the atmosphere of the game, the supreme sound design, or the presentation as a whole. Because although it's nice that it sounds and looks phenomenal, those are just the cherries on top of a delicious monster cake. Now, in videos talking about Breath of the Wild, I always hear people say, I went into the game totally blind, and I'm so glad I did. But for the majority of us, we didn't do that. I didn't go in blind, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys watching didn't go in blind either. And although that probably does make the game more exciting to play, don't feel that if you've already watched a Let's Play, you shouldn't bother playing it yourself. It's okay going in knowing a bit more, or even a lot more. And even if it wasn't okay, the game is so fun that it isn't even a factor you should worry about. Breath of the Wild gives you a custom experience like nothing else. The world's design lets you go anywhere you want, the game's mechanics allow you to overcome obstacles in whatever way you want, and seeing unpredictable scenarios ensue really makes this game feel magical. I have a bunch of nostalgia for areas and plots in previous Zelda titles, and not only does Breath of the Wild have beautiful renditions of these areas decrepit and destroyed, but no memories of a Zelda game has ever been so personal as they are in Breath of the Wild. Except for maybe the original, but I was -15 when that came out, so. Anyway, that, my friends, is what makes Breath of the Wild so magical. Well, that's a bit too fuzzy to end a video on, so, penis. There we go. Now you can roll for credits. You might think this is sneezy, that it's like at 10 minutes and 1 second, but no, that wasn't my intention. It just ended up that way, okay? I'm not a sellout.